rained through her fingers. Page 91 to 102. Davy's chains withdrew from both Ned and the mermaid, now peeking above the rim of the bath. At least he took Elaine seriously enough for that. All the while, a fine rain fell throughout the chamber, trickling down hair and faces, dampening clothes. No one paid it much mind. Who would to such a fragile magic? At last they were ready. The duelists faced each other, Davy's chains fanned and writhing around him like Medusa's hair. The Ichushka tossed something gold into the air. Ned's orb. Elaine realized. A human's magic was no use to a fairy. Begin, he said, and stepped clear. Scarcely had the orb come down from the top of its arc than Davy's chains snapped out. They arrowed through the air like half a dozen spikes and plunged into Elaine's body, which shivered into mist. Davy gaped. "What?" he spluttered. The live iron chains fell to the carpet in soft thuds. The rain inside the banqueting room increased from a patter to a steady drumming, pressing down upon all. Elaine glided unnoticed through the rain, slipping past Davy's guards with not even a whisper of movement. Her skin prickled with magic, the enchantment she'd created from the falling water, disguising not only herself but blinding the eyes of all to her presence. Good thing there were no umbrellas in Davy's kingdom. She soft-stepped to the chair of age-yellowed bone, pocked and pitted with scars, surrounded by a malevolent air. Davy's irons were rust-red where they met it. A rumble of power stirred within it. This is where his strength comes from. Elaine bent closer, keeping her hands and clothes well clear of the thing. She didn't want to touch it at all. Raindrops pattered upon that ancient seat, dragged up from the depths, still holding the echoes of siren song within it. All around her, bone, wood, and fabric swelled with moisture. Tiny enchantments dripped unnoticed through the pavilion, dissolved in water, formless charms. They nonetheless were the sum total of her magic, sent out on the wings of storm over countless days and nights. The very humid air that Davy had brought with him to Brighton had been the channel for Elaine's working. She'd sent her charms out blind, but thanks to Ned she had the courage to see for herself, and now she knew where to concentrate those enchantments of erosion, of dissolution, of washing away. Elaine held her hand over the throne, rain falling through her fingers. Still in the dueling arena, Davy twisted this way and that, chains snaking blindly around him. A sense of danger must have alerted him, for he turned and locked gazes with Elaine. "You," he choked out the word, and once again the chains arrowed towards her. No illusion masked her now. Elaine had dropped it to put all her power into one summoning. Right here, layers of soft magic gathered around her, focused. A crack of thunder echoed in the chamber. A great split appeared in the chair, a gash in the bone. With a series of cracks, more splits branched off it. Rust sped across the iron chains, coating them red within a fraction of a moment. The corroded iron burst into flecks of rust. The throne of bones collapsed to dust. Davy went even paler, his eyes and mouth dark holes in his paper-white face. "How?" he stammered. "It's been raining in Brighton day after day for months," explained Elaine. "You brought the weather along with the sea, weather that I work with. The water in the air has been undermining your magic for months, stretching it thin, but keeping it from falling apart. I only needed to see for myself where to strike the final blow. I didn't think I had the courage to do so, but—" She looked at Ned. "Thank you." With another sharp splinter of sound, the cuffs around Ned's wrists and ankles fell open and onto the carpet. The mermaid in the bathtub tossed her head, and the collar around her neck disintegrated. Davy started forward, then with a choked cry fell to his knees. His spear-bearing guards watched him impassively. Apparently, he hadn't engendered much loyalty in them. The imps tittered mockingly. The Ichushka folded his arms, a small smile playing about his lips. A cold shiver, entirely apart from the chill drizzle, rang down Elaine's back. Fairies were dangerous on their own. They watched Davy, now writhing and retching on the floor. A dark, heavy atmosphere had fallen over the place. Hope and alarm flared in the wretched human's eyes. Davy's power is broken? But what about the fairies? I didn't think far enough. Tightness constricted Elaine's chest. I have to. The mermaid lifted herself up and began to sing. The wordless music, its edge hard and forged through suffering and bitterness, tightened around Davy's neck. Eyes bulging, he lifted his emaciated hands to his throat. Frozen, Elaine felt despair weighing down upon her. Her magic was emptied, the air around her dry as dust. Nothing stood between her and the song. In her pocket the tears grew warm. Only another mermaid's power could stop what was gathering in this hall. If only she could move her muscles. Even the blue-skinned men were on their knees as the mermaid sang, imperious and unyielding. And then Ned rose creakily to his feet, chafing his wrists and straightening the cuffs of his coat. Now he began. None of that. Bending down, he scooped up the magical orb. Some of the pressure eased at the sound of his voice, carving a space between Elaine and the song. She could breathe again. She sucked in a lungful of air and the tightness around her body passed. A warm, bright sensation lay on her skin. Ned's magic. Ned tilted his head to the chandelier. Do you hear? This is between land and sea now. A slithering movement came from above. Elaine, along with everyone else, craned her neck upwards. Silver unfolded in the dim. A great mouth opened with a yawn. The chandelier plummeted to the floor. Elaine shrank back as it hit with a crash of glass, and a ringing of metal, and a glitter of light. A spray of shards exploded upwards in a column. Ned must have done something to contain the damage, for the glass fell harmlessly back to the ground in a glittering shower. The sound of its fall echoed in the room, a minor counterpoint to the sudden blooming of a wild and dangerous magic. A silver dragon poured onto the carpet, growing larger with every second. Its back darkened, its belly turned moon pale, its mouth opened in a soundless roar. It shook out and spread its dark wings. They overshadowed the chamber on either side. Fairy and human alike pressed against the walls. The mermaid's song faltered. Davy dropped to the floor like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Elaine's legs had turned to jelly. No one had seen a dragon in England in centuries. The serpentine beast exuded damp and power. As it faced the mermaid, imps and hobgoblins slipped out of the chamber in droves. The humans retreated to the farthest corner of the room. Only the blue guards crowded around their true mistress, holding out their spears in a defense more valiant than effective. The dragon made a sound halfway between snort and huff. A noxious odor rose into the air. Ned took a couple of shaky steps, then wobbled. "Ah," he said. "How embarrassing. The unbinding quite used up my strength." Shaking off her dread, Elaine hurried over to steady him. Both of them leaned into each other. She couldn't tell who was supporting whom. "Are you sure about this, Ned?" she whispered into his ear. "I spent all day on my knees making sure. It's a Sussex knuckler, very territorial and wily. Had to make sure the terms were clear before unbinding it. Pity, though. I doubt it'll let me take anything else out of here. They're very possessive, too." A wistful tone crept into his voice. Elaine let out a brief laugh. Silent now, the mermaid sank into the water. The dragon's tail flicked lazily. It appeared to have won. "I'm not in the mood for fish." Elaine jumped as the alien voice spoke inside her head. She had no words to describe what it sounded like, save that it welled painfully in her skull. "Little blue men, take your princess and go." The mermaid's guards bowed. One hoisted the mermaid carefully from the bath, and the other tenderly placed a piece of wet fabric around her. She sank into its folds, clutching it with webbed fingers. As she was carried out, her shifting sea eyes met Elaine's for a moment. The mermaid inclined her head. Elaine nodded back, and despite the ruin around them, felt a comforting normalcy creep around her. Social pleasantries still had their place, you promised. The dragon spoke again, this time to Ned. Elaine winced, glad that she was the recipient of neither of the creature's ageless stare nor its conversation. I did, agreed Ned. There are others out there. Do what you promised, then return to your hole. Remember our agreement? I will. To the tiniest jot and tittle and no more. I was afraid of that, said Ned with a sigh, as the dragon wavered, slithered, and disappeared through the wall. Elaine gaped, but the creature was now outside the windows, its bulk darker than the night. She saw it spread its wings, then leap into the sky. Well, that should take care of the fairies drawn from other parts of the country, commented Ned. With a knuckler on the hunt, they'll return to their homes fast enough. And what else did you promise it? Elaine asked suspiciously. He flashed her a grin. Whatever it wanted from the pavilion for its hoard. Even the mathematical bootjack. Elaine raised her brows. He laughed. Even that. What are you looking around for? Elaine. The Ichushka, the chamber was emptied of all but the humans. Even now, the thought of the water horse's wild beauty sent a pang through her. Don't worry about that one, said Ned shortly. He turned into a bird and flew away. He frowned, the stern look crossing over his face again for a brief instant. Something about that expression both drew and unsettled her. Elaine looked away, at her prone cousin. Though he looked like a death's head, Davy still breathed, obscurely. Elaine was relieved. She hadn't killed him. After all, what about Davy? That's a matter for the Merlin, don't you think? The man has to earn his keep. After all, Elaine nodded. Davy had broken the rules they'd been taught by their mothers. If anyone deserved the Merlin's terrible justice, it was him. Ned prodded the man with his foot. Your cousin? Huh? Yes. Elaine gave him a shaky smile. Sorry, there's a tale in there. Someday you'll have to tell me. Ned looked around at the sad, soggy remnants of what had been once a fine, glittering chamber. This place has emptied considerably. I think it's time for us to remove ourselves and our compatriots as well. The king isn't going to like this. Somehow, the destruction of this one room saddened her more than what had happened to the rest of Brighton. Maybe it was easier to take it in. The other tragedy was too large, too overwhelming to comprehend. No, he isn't, agreed Ned. Do you still have the fairy ring? Good. Now that the inimical enchantments are gone, I can send everyone out. He flipped the fairy ring into the air, where it increased in size. It landed gently on the ground, with Davy still unconscious in the center. While Ned went searching for stragglers, Elaine coaxed and cajoled the survivors inside. Her heart nearly broke for the scant 24 of them, many with their wits clearly wandering. She didn't know if their minds would ever recover from their brutal captivity. Ned returned with a grim twist to his mouth. He shook his head at Elaine and her heart sank. From over 100 to these few, perhaps some had already escaped, though she didn't like their chances in Brighton. Perhaps Lydia had been one of them, and perhaps she only attempted to assuage her own guilt at having lived with such a vain hope as that. Elaine bit her lip. With one of his sharp slashes of magic, Ned extinguished the marsh lights in the chamber. Pale moonlight crept through the windows to alleviate the gloom. The fairy ring stirred to life, bringing with it the scent of wildflowers. A soft golden glow encompassed Davy and the rest. Elaine shielded her eyes as Ned murmured a line of unknown words. It sounded like poetry. When the light faded, the others were gone. The fairy ring was empty. Only the two of them remained. Shall we? Ned held out his arm, but Elaine didn't move from her spot. She'd spent 2 years in Brighton, and the past 6 months in the confines of the house on Marine Parade. Freedom to move about as she pleased seemed almost unimaginable. The life that had dripped day by day through her fingers was now full of an almost painful possibility. Would she run and hide as she had always done? Or would she use this precious chance to become more than she was now? An almost anxious look came over Ned's face, bitten deep between his brows. "Elaine," she said, "they're kind people, aren't they?" His shoulders relaxed. "The best sort." He seemed about to say something, then shook his head. "Meet them first, then make up your mind. You can stay or go as you choose. I promise. There is no compulsion." How long since she'd properly met anyone, let alone another magician, and now she was to meet a whole coterie of them? Well, she'd faced Davy, right? She could face Ned's friends, and the outside world. Elaine squared her shoulders. "Let's go."